All right. Hello, everybody. Hello again. Hello, Newark. We're back with our honor education app experiments, which we're now calling Philosophy Snacks. We'll see if that sticks. So, put together a little bit of a curriculum for this little unit, which will be shorter than the first one. That was quite a big piece to get through that I gave you last time around. So, we're going to make this one a little bit shorter, but just as thought provoking, I hope. So, philosophy, one way of thinking about philosophy is that branch of human inquiry where we ask, how are we going to live our lives? It's as simple as that. And that's a question we're always asking ourselves. So, um, being philosophical, I guess, about it just means giving it some structure and developing some tools for thinking about answering that question of how we're going to live our lives. So, philosophy, in a sense, asserts that thinking about the question can help answer it, that there are tools you can put to use to answer the question of how to live and do a better job of living, therefore. And so, in the background here, I have to tell you about a pet peeve of mine, which is that this idea that it's really only in science that we have access to knowledge, that it's really only in science that we have access to knowledge, and that every other mode of human inquiry, like arts and philosophy and literature and religion, is somehow really more about opinion and not really about knowledge. And in fact, if you think about all of the different answers that your whole class gave to the question of where they'd want to be 20 years from now, a lot of that, I think it's natural to think about it as grounded in personal opinion. Every one of your classmates can have their own view about what that should be. That's absolutely true. But philosophy then asks the question: is there a way to sift through those answers, the way to think about those answers, so that you actually, it's not all opinion, that you can actually make a kind of argument about some goals in life being more important than others, or some ways of thinking about the future will actually lead to a better life for you than others. So I know that is a radical claim, because I think your generation thinks largely in terms of opinions. Whatever you think is what you think is true, and therefore go for it, kind of thing. So I'm going to try to push against that a little bit. Now, this is a debate that the ancient Greeks, so you remember Plato was the guy who wrote the text about Socrates in our last unit. Those ancient Greeks living in the city of Athens were arguing about this very question themselves. Is a view of what a good human life is a matter of knowledge or opinion? Is it knowledge or opinion? They were fighting about that quite a lot. So, if you remember the last units, Plato has a particular view of this debate. He's more on the side of knowledge than opinion. And so, if you remember that guy, Cephalus, that you read about, guy's getting old, he's thinking about his life. Socrates says, do you think you led a good life? And Cephalus says a version of, yeah, you know what? I think it's important to be just. I think it's important that I be a just person. And when I look at my life, what do you know? I was just. Because, he adds, being just means paying your debts and not lying. So there, that gets presented. Think of that as a kind of knowledge. Cephalus is saying to the people he's talking to, presumably to us, hey, young people, it's important that you be just to be comfortable in your own age and your old age. And let me tell you further, being just means paying your debts and not telling lies. Now, what happens in the conversation that follows, and very quickly, Socrates asks a couple of questions about Cephalus's definition. Pay your debts and don't tell lies. And before you know it, Cephalus is like, yeah, that definition doesn't sound so good. And stronger than that, Cephalus says, I guess I'm not right about that. I'm wrong about pay your debts and don't tell lies as the definition of justice. So now we're in a position, if we're caught up in this conversation, of can we get that answer right? Is there a right answer to the question of what is it to be just? And if there is, then that's a kind of knowledge. Rightness would be me knowing the true nature of justice. All right, so that's all background. This week, I'm introducing you to a 20th century social psychologist by the name of Abraham Maslow. And I think Maslow, from a different, not from a kind of Plato Socrates philosophical thinking point of view, but from a social psychology point of view, is there knowledge to be had about what a good human life looks like? So check out the rest of the unit and see what you think.